had a lot of people who didn't have money, but they wanted to help. So I had my mother-in-law, my future mother-in-law's co-worker at Jewish Federation of LA said, send me your artwork and all of your notes and I will do the layout. And then I will send it to a printer here in LA who I've played your music for and he wants to help. So I basically got about $2,000 worth of printing for $180. That's never going to happen again. That was a first-time miracle. Then I contacted a company that sent me empty cases, and I had the J-card, the cards that you go in here. I had everything pre-scored for folding, and I had a folding and stuffing party. And we all sat around and we put it all together ourselves, which saved money on having someone do it. Finally, I had all the CDs done in massive quantity through a duplicating process, and they abound. They're online. You just hit CD duplication or CD replication and they'll come up, okay? So that was number one. Number one cost me $1,000 to make. That was in 2002, $1,000, yeah? Remember, yeah, I know, Robbie, stop. I paid a college kid, and you can hear it sounds like I paid a college kid. I learned a lot from this process. I also had people play for free, including a bass player who couldn't read charts. You gets what you pays for, people, okay? Fast forward 10 years. This is 10 miles. For this one, I said, I want to go and into a studio. So what I decided to do, and this is something I'm going to recommend, check your local resources first. In your local sphere, figure out what your resources are. What musicians do you know that can accompany you? Do you know anybody that owns a studio where you live? You'll save on travel expenses and other expenses if you can keep it local. That may or may not be an option for you, but at least check. I found a local studio, and I found a recording engineer who owned a local studio, and because in Portland we trade everything, he gave me a flat hourly rate, and knowing that I would have limited studio time, I rehearsed everything like crazy for months before I went into the studio, so that all I had to do was go into the studio, do 4 takes of each song, boom, 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 and then just listen and pick the take I liked best. And that was how I made it. If you work with another person who's your producer, he or she may have other ideas for how that process can be expedited for you. I chose to self-produce because producers are professionals and they ought to be paid. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to raise enough money to make the recording and pay a producer. So for 10 miles, you'll see that I went straight to paper because it was cheaper and because CD production had evolved to the point where people weren't buying CDs so much anymore. And now more people were becoming interested in electronic downloads. It was kind of that transitional point 4 years ago. So I had everything done, you know, my layout, my artwork, which I provided to them. It was all done by one company in Portland that does CD duplication. And they did everything. It was a package deal. It certainly cost more. My goal for 10 miles was to raise $5,000. I raised $5,000 and I was able to make a studio CD. Okay. Fast forward to 2017 and my latest CD, which gets a whole lot simpler. This is A Sliver in the Sky. This just came out in November. This is even more local than 10 miles was. I went with the same studio because I was super happy with the guy. I did all my own artwork. By this time, I had learned how to superimpose my signature onto a picture, so I just did my own artwork. That's my photograph of the moon rising in the Mendocino Hills on our way to family for Thanksgiving. I took it out the car window, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Let's use that. And then I did the signature thing on my Mac. And then I decided, well, thanks to my high school drafting teacher who was really sadistic about neat handwriting, I came up with legible handwriting. So I didn't even bother typing it this time. I just printed it out on a piece of paper and did cut and paste. I did everything, okay? I also, then I went, oh, and this doesn't even fold out. It's just a little, it's like a little miniature record case. It's cute. For this one, I went to an even smaller scale CD duplicator who now exists in Portland. And I said, I want 250 copies. That's all I'm getting. Because so many more people want digital downloads now. The reason that I still have CDs made is because you have to know your demographic. If your demographic is 45 and older, like all of us in this room, then they're more likely to want a CD because they just don't. They don't download. Wow, what do I do with that, man? The CD is like comfort food. It's like noodles and cottage cheese. It's always going to be there for you. Okay, so you got to figure out. So you have to figure out production costs. You have to figure out post-production costs. In addition, if you are singing someone else's compositions, you have to figure out what it's going to cost you to get permission to do that. Here's how I get around that. I write all my own stuff and I only sing my own stuff on the album. Because the one time that I tried to set someone else's poetry to music, it cost me $100 off the top of my head just to get permission to do that. And I said, forget that. I'm just going to write my own stuff. It's just easier. Okay. So that's a choice. That's research that you have to do to find out, okay, there's this really cool setting and who owns the rights to it and how do I get permission? And that gets into licensing and electronic licensing. And Robbie is the champ and could tell you all about that because she's the queen of copyright law. So I'm going to let her do that another time. And now we get into post-production, which is really what I call fulfillment. Fulfillment is making all those pre-purchase fans happy. Now I have a CD. Now I got to mail it out. So that you have to make another list and say, how many people, how many CDs am I going to make? How many people do I hope will sign up? How much do I charge for each CD? How much is it going to cost me to mail it to them? Am I willing to mail to Canada? And am I willing to mail overseas? Or would I rather just try and convince them really hard to do a digital download? Okay. So you gotta line all that stuff up and figure it out. Include in your other expenses the percentage you will pay to the crowdfunding site. Include in your other expenses the percentage you will have to set aside for the IRS. I'm sorry, but you got to do it. And then, well, here, I just have it. Oh, okay. Again, file this under Know Your Demographic. If you know that you're marketing to teens and college age students, they're going to want swag. They're going to want stickers. And maybe, I mean, if you're Joe Buchanan, they'll want t-shirts because how cool is that? My demographic is not teens. And I make that very clear. If teens like my songs, awesome. But when I make these albums, this is Jewish music for grown-ups. And I make no bones about that. So I don't produce a lot of swag because to produce swag costs money. And then you have to get into the question of, if you make additional perks besides the recorded product, you have to spend some time figuring out, and this is more of an ethical question now, are you willing to ask your supporters to help shoulder the costs of making the swag? I decided no, because I have an ambivalent relationship with retail in general after 20 years in the bike industry. And I care about overfilling the world with too much stuff. And how many more t-shirts do we need in the world? So I chose not to make swag because then I didn't have to ask my folks to help with it. Your choice may be different. Robbie has a question.
I just want to say about swag, which I love. I mean, I love that you're using swag, making swag a Jewish thing. That you have to carry it with you, and there's nothing heavier than T-shirts in different sizes. And so, no, really, so Bob, at the very beginning, we did t-shirts and we sold all sorts of swag, and it turned out to just be a pain to do so. Stickers are great. Guitar picks are fabulous. Pens are also excellent. Karen's showing us a pen. But, you know, if you're going to go swaggy and you're not going to be passing the cost on to those who are buying your albums, be aware of the fact that, you know, you have to pay for your bags these days. That's all.
Ding, ding, ding. Thank you for raising that point. Look, it is already hard enough for me to carry along an extra bag of all the handmade Judaica that I make, and people want to see it. So am I going to add t-shirts to that mix? Not so much. But more than that, it's, do I want to ask my market to pay for advertising? Because that's really all swag is. This thing has my name on it. It's got my website on it. Do I want to ask people to pay for that? No. These stickers for me are the cost of doing business. I made these at Kinko's FedEx myself. It still costs quite a bit of money to make like 300 of these, but I give them away. And for me, that's fine. That's worth it. More than that, I'm not going to get super involved in. But you have to answer that question for yourself, okay? Now, that's a complicated question, so you need to give yourself time to get clear on the answer to that, okay? Because you want to make sure as you do this that you represent your truest self, not only in your music, but in your business dealings from the start. And the way the crowdfunding works, you must be transparent. You must share what it's going to cost with your supporters up front, because you're pre-selling a product that doesn't exist yet. You have to be honest with them and say, look, it's going to cost X, okay? But you got to do the homework before you get into the crowdfunding. So now, let's go over to crowdfunding, okay? Anyone can ask for money. That doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that anyone can ask for money. I have a hell of a time asking for money. I squirm and I shrink and I just go to really dark places in my brain when I have to ask for money. That's just me, okay? Your mileage may vary. But ideally, when you do this, what can you do to make folks want to help you make this project a reality? You offer them something in return. More ideally, you offer them something special that is about you, okay? So you got to think about what's special about you. Oh my gosh, that's marketing. That's almost as hard as asking for money, because now I have to look at myself favorably, and I'm a human and I'm not socialized to do that. Well, this is where I have to tell you, you know what, guys, get over it, because there's good stuff about us, and if there wasn't, we wouldn't be thinking about putting this stuff in the world, right? Talk to your counselor, talk to your therapist, whatever you need to do, you got to work through that, okay? Okay, because you have to market yourself. Oh my God, yes. So, again, if your demographic is youthful, they're going to want some swag. Try not to go crazy, because it all costs to make. If your demographic is older, they're going to be less interested in swag and more interested in a physical CD, and they're going to be all about the music. So in my case, I decided to just offer the album as a pre-purchase, either in physical form or in digital download form. And there are, I mean, when you go to the crowdfunding things, when you go to these sites and you take a look at, oh, wait, I can do this now. Let's close that up. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, so let me see if I could do this, share screen. So I have to open something up to share it. There, okay, I am sharing screen. Wait, let me see if this works. Ta-da! Yes! Okay, I'm throwing this up here. It's a preview of a campaign. This was, can you all see it without I'm looking at faces and seeing, but can you see it? Oh, good, okay. So here, I did a screenshot of the first page of my Indiegogo campaign for Sliver in the Sky. All of these crowdfunding platforms are going to make it super user-friendly. They're going to walk you through the process of setting up a campaign. They'll give you the order in which you have to assemble your information and set it up. They're all super user-friendly this way. They have to be, or they wouldn't succeed. But if you look off to the left-hand side of that screenshot, you're going to see view campaign, post an update, a campaign editor, which you can open up, a dashboard. Your dashboard is going to be where you keep track of contributions and who gets what when your album is done. A perks report, which is, these are the perks I'm offering and how many perks, the quantity of each perk that's going to be available. Like, okay, I'm going to say that if you buy in at $18, you get a CD. And you get it before the official release date, so you'll be like the first people to get it. Everybody else is going to have to wait a month or 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm going to make it available to 100 people to buy in at that level. And the perks report will tell you how many are available, how many people have bought in, how many are still left, okay? Every single one of these crowdfunding platforms will have their own methodology for how you use the platform to your best advantage, okay? You can also see on my page here in the lower right where it says $3,600 flexible goal. And I was able to raise about almost 3/4 of that, okay? I sold a couple of bikes to make up the difference. It was fine. But you gotta, but all of this is here, and this is why transparency is so important, because right there, $2,500 raised by 68 backers for 72% of the goal. Your fan base needs to see increments of your progress. That gets them to buy in. I'm gonna stop share this, okay? And we're going to go back and I'm going to close this out. Thank you for playing. Okay. Okay. Larger perks can include things like production credit. Some people are into saying, hey, I had all these co-producers and they all paid in at $1,000 a head or whatever it is. And they get their name listed on the album. And some people are really into that sort of thing. And you need to know your fan base enough to know if and how many supporters might be turned on by that. But that, again, is going to be a reflection of you representing your truest, best self as an artist during the crowdfunding process, okay? So now we're going to look at platforms, okay? And for this, I want to go, yes, okay. All right, I am sharing. I love this. This is great. Okay, so I am sharing just enough, okay? All of this is going to be in a big multi-page outline that I'm going to make available at the end, and I can post it to the Facebook page or whatever for people to have. But basically, I originally wrote this like 3 years ago for GTM, for Guild of Temple Musicians, to publish in one of their online things. It's been updated. And there are now easily a dozen or more ways to raise money online using crowdfunding. Some of them are geared specifically towards creative projects. Others are geared towards charity. So you need to do some homework and research which ones you want to use. These are the 3 that I've listed that are accessed most commonly by Jewish performing artists who want to fund a creative project. And I have posted links here, which you should be able to click on. Yes, okay. You can click on those and go and research them on your own later. Kickstarter is the oldest and the biggest. Their platform is pretty user-friendly. It gives you links to current and also completed campaigns. Money is handled through Amazon, through a credit card.
I want to say that we can't click on it because you're showing your screen. So unless we have to document ourselves, just wanted to let you know. No worries, keep going.
Thank you. Okay,
so Amazon, go ahead.
Great. So Kickstarter does all their money through Amazon. Some people find this objectionable, because it means that you have to have a card, and there are still a handful of people in the world, like Neo-Luddite me, who would prefer not to deal in plastic all the time. 2, it adds what some people think is another layer of complexity. if you embrace complexity in your life, then don't let that slow you down and go ahead and use Kickstarter. Lots of people have crowdfunded successfully using this platform. I'm going to jump to the third one, which is Juicer. That's J-E-W, sir. Juicer, as its name suggests, it's a crowdfunding platform for Jewish projects. And it operates very similarly to the way that Kickstarter and Indiegogo do. I chose not to utilize this platform for several reasons. Number one, I was not enough of a known quantity in the Jewish music world for this platform to generate the support that I needed. I don't live in a city with a large Jewish population, and my music crosses over Jewish boundaries. A lot of people who funded my second and third albums aren't Jewish. They just like my music. Probably, at least in the case of A Sliver in the Sky, over a third of my funders are not connected to Jewish community in any way. And I said, cool, bring it on. So I went with the middle of the page, Indiegogo. This is another crowdfunding platform. Again, it caters to almost any kind of creative project you can think of. I will say that of these three, Indiegogo for me offered the simplest and clearest instructions for setup. They offer great technical support. Most questions got a response in 12 hours or less. They will work with my bank. They will work with my debit or credit card. And they will also accept PayPal, which is an online money transfer service whose popularity among the wired generation is growing rapidly. There are other online money exchanges, but PayPal is probably the most well-known and to the point where it's ubiquitous. So PayPal doesn't require you to have a credit card to have a PayPal account, which is another reason that I like using it. So this gives your fan base some choices, okay? In all of these cases, it's best to take some time and do your homework and look at examples of campaigns on all of these crowdfunding platforms to say, oh, that's cool. Oh, I want to avoid that. And to give yourself an idea of how this works. Really, just click and point and play and check it out. This is one of those things where you want to take some you time with just you and your computer and just go and play and see what's out there. That was how I did it. I'm going to unshare. Unsharing. Yes. Okay, go there. God, yes, hand up.
I've seen a lot of people recently using GoFundMe. And so I think GoFundMe is newer than Kickstarter, Indiegogo.
Yes.
Just wondering, but I've just seen a lot of people recently, including our friend Adrian Derlister, right? He is using, I have barking dogs. Sorry, let me do that. And we're recording this so everyone can hear my barking dogs. But just wanted to say that's another one. Is that one that you've checked into? And I will mute my dogs and listen for your answer.
So GoFundMe is used for a very wide range of purposes. In addition to creative projects, a lot of people use GoFundMe to raise funds for charitable causes. A family gets down on their luck. The mom got hurt in a car accident. Now they have no daycare. Now they have no childcare. They can't afford daycare. The husband is working 2 jobs. Friends pitch in and they start a GoFundMe and say, hey, we'd like to raise 2 months worth of household expenses for our friends to help tide them over. Would you be willing to kick in a little bit? Give us your beer money this week. And for my money, GoFundMe has really become known as a way for people to help each other in times of need. And I consider it first and foremost to be a charitable funding vehicle, and secondly, a creative project funding vehicle. What you want to do is take a look at these platforms to see how their campaigns look to users, to see if their look and their language and their usability feel like more of a charitable thing or feel more like we're doing this to support the creation of a creative project. And you're really going to have to take a look and do some homework and just look at these things and see how they are. Is it Karen or Caron?
It's Karen. Thing. So here's my question. We have whatever the project is, the CD project, whatever we're raising money for. We prepared the budget. We prepared the bennies that people will get for contributing. We've selected a platform. Okay, so I'm good up to here. So my question is, how are you reaching, or how do we reach beyond the immediate people we know? Because from my perspective, I'm constantly hitting up family and friends, asking them to spread the word. You're constantly hitting up the same people. How do we take our campaign and go beyond our group?
Next question. Once I've set up my campaign, how do I make sure money will actually roll in? So, okay, two things. Before you launch your campaign, the very first thing you need to do. Now, all of these crowdfunding platforms will allow you to create a campaign and put it on hold until you're ready to launch. So pre-launch, you hit up your family and friends and you let them know that this is happening. You tell them your launch date. You ask them to be among the first people to click in, because that will show instantaneous success and invite people who don't know you as well to go, oh, people are already buying in here. I'm going to check this out. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you select a launch date and you do as much pre-launch publicity around that date, and you make it interesting and you make it cool. Charlie Kramer, who is a friend of mine and who is a Jewish musician based in the LA area, great singer-songwriter, just a brilliant young man. What he did was he lined up his launch date with a house concert. And he said, we're going to do my launch and we're going to do a house concert at the same time. So I'm going to do the house concert, like on Facebook Live or something. And I'm going to say, you can watch me push the button. Boom, there we go, we're on. And because you're on live at the same time in real time, that kind of launch can generate interest, okay? I did the same thing for Sliver in the Sky. I actually did a launch with a coffee house show. And so I did the coffee house show, and at the very end of the coffee house show, I pulled up my sister's laptop, and I hit the button, and there it was. And then I said, okay, thanks, I'll see you online. You can do that. You can make it interesting. You can make it cool. Once your campaign has launched, so all of this, you got to create a lot of hype. You got to create a lot of hype before the launch to get people interested in the launch. Whatever social media you use, you'll use a lot. Facebook, mails, Twitter, if you do Twitter.
Can you that?
I am hearing background noises that I don't know from where. Hello? It's not me. Okay, are we good? All right, so social media, because this is an online electronic crowdfunding effort, you will rely on social media to help you kickstart interest in it, to generate interest. If you don't use Facebook a whole lot and you want to create a project and crowdfund it online, Facebook's going to be a good tool to use, because Facebook is a way for to get lots of eyes and ears on what you're doing, okay? Each of these crowdfunding platforms has a list of steps to take that they recommend for launching and maintaining a successful campaign. There's not a whole lot of difference between their list of hints. They're all about the same. There's maybe some subtle differences. I'm going to base my stuff on Indiegogo because I've had a lot of success with that platform. Once your campaign starts, there will be a lot of buzz at the beginning, and then it may fall off. Don't panic, okay? Do not panic if this happens. Campaigns usually do stall after the initial buzz has died down. Secondly, make a list and keep checking that list. What am I doing to generate buzz? Ask your friends and family to help generate that buzz through their own word of mouth. Don't rely just on your network. Rely on all of their networks too for a giant ripple effect. And keep pumping that idea to everyone you know. It's not only totally okay to ask for this kind of help, it's necessary. You're not going to do this alone. In fact, if you can give the impression that you have a team working on your behalf for this, it's going to make you look a whole lot cooler than some guy typing in the basement like he's the 100th monkey. You want to make it look like you've got some support, because you do. Use your resources, okay? Finally, you can continue to create events during your campaign, whether it's a Facebook Live or a house concert or something at your synagogue if it's Jewish music, and you can live stream it if it's your stuff. This is if it's your stuff. If it's not your stuff and you're singing someone else's music, there's a whole nother layer that you got to work with on that. And I'll defer to Robbie on that because she knows everything. The biggest thing that you need to do during your campaign is you must stay positive no matter what. I have a dear friend who shall remain nameless, who was part of a band that did a crowdfunding campaign several years ago, about the time that I was doing 10 miles, in fact. So like 2012, 2013. And her band did not have a successful crowdfunding campaign. And when things started to go south, their initial buzz died down after 5 days. And then there was nothing, crickets. I don't know what they were doing. I have no idea. But she started to complain in her updates to her fan base and on Facebook. And I just sat there and put my head in my hand and I went, oh, no, don't do this. This is like self-immolation here. Why are you doing this? You're allowed to be negative. Just don't share, okay? That's like bad marketing. You got to stay positive, okay? Every little piece that happens can be spun positively, okay? It can. You just, if the campaign stalls or you don't meet your goal, don't whine. Be gracious. Thank your supporters either way, okay? One thing, anytime someone makes a donation to your campaign, drop everything that you're doing and immediately send that person a thank you email or a tweet. You got to make sure that they are okay with being publicly acknowledged. If they're not, you can do something on your Facebook page that says, thank you to the anonymous donor who just made a contribution to my campaign, okay? But do your homework, and each of these crowdfunding platforms is going to give you a way to keep track of your contributions so that you can keep all of that in mind. I'm going to share again. How are we doing on time? Do I have another 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Okay, good. So, there we go. Yes, good. Okay, let's go here. That's great. Sharing. Let's share. It's good to share. Okay, so this is from Indiegogo. This is a badly mutilated, privatized version of a sample of my dashboard. So when I did Indiegogo the first time, they did everything in an Excel spreadsheet and I punched in the info myself. Then 4 years later, things got better, and now they do it all for you. So somebody with the first name beginning with A signed up for a signed copy of the CD, and they paid, and now that the campaign is closed, I could check fulfilled. And it would give me their address, and in some cases, like the third one down, M made a donation but did not want anything in return, and that was fine. So the dashboard that these platforms offer will help you to keep track of stuff. You got to look at the platforms and see which one has a thing that is going to meet your comfort level in terms of keeping your information well organized. But as soon as somebody makes a donation, drop everything, stop what you're doing, and go and send them a thank you note. Or if they're okay with being publicly acknowledged. What I did for my platform was I saved them all up, and at the end of a day, or at the end of a couple of days, I'd go, in the last 3 days, boom, 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 all these names have made donations. They have contributed to, or they are participating in my campaign. I decided to change the word to participating in, because what these guys are is stakeholders in my creative project. So I changed the language. Language can be important. Instead of saying donation, say participating in my campaign. They've joined my team. They're helping bring this creative project into reality. So think about how you're going to use your language. Look at examples of successful crowdfunding campaigns and see how they utilized language to describe their project and your involvement in their process, because language can be important. Let's see. Finally, how long should my campaign run? Okay, wow. Some campaigns take longer because the person running the campaign says, oh, I have to raise $30,000 for my creative project, and I am not going to do that in 10 days' time because I don't know enough sugar daddies who make no demands. I mean, I don't know. The average campaign is 30 to 45 days. The most successful campaigns tend to last less than 45 days. And that's because past a certain point, you're going to run out of energy to keep generating interest. And because if you haven't raised enough money in a certain time, it's not only going to feel like old news, it's going to make the people who don't know you as well wonder, wow, what is up with that? Okay? So 30 to 45 days is kind of the average. I would lean closer to 30. My campaign ran 36 days. It was fine. Finally, what happens if I don't make all my money? This is the last one, okay? What happens if I don't make all my money? Well, if you don't make all your money and you have gone with fixed funding, then you're not going to make your album. Regroup, take a breath, write some more music, work on other creative projects, and distract yourself from that for a little while so that you don't get super depressed about it. Go make, what's the rule? Make art. Does it suck? Great. Make more art. Is it good? Great. Make more art. Just keep making more art. Don't, because the money thing is just money, but you can always make more art. So if you chose flexible funding, okay, if you chose flexible funding and you get to keep whatever you make, but you didn't raise enough to make an 11-song album, okay, maybe you made enough to make a 2 or 3 song demo, and you get that demo out there, your 3 best songs, and you put it out in the world, and you get it into the hands of people that produce Jewish music festivals and other events, and you use it as a marketing tool. And you regroup that way, and you then think about how and who you would reach out to increase your chances of funding a full-length album the next time around. One last thing. In 2018, we don't make albums to sell. I mean, yeah, okay, we're going to sell some albums. That's great, cool, you know. But we make albums, and this album is my calling card. I will probably give away a third to a half of my 250 albums as calling cards, as marketing tools. I send them to any Jewish radio program in the country, or I send them at MP3s, because I keep my MP3s on file on my computer. Oh, hey, finished product. But this is a calling card. This is as much a calling card as my business card with my name and phone number on it, because this is what gets me gigs. The product gets me gigs. The gigs don't make me sell product. That whole idea that used to be the way the music industry ran has been, oh, hello, pup, has been turned on its ear. It used to be in the old days that you made an album and that was what got you gigs and you could tour on that album. Not anymore. And probably, maybe never in contemporary Jewish music, but I'm not sure about that. This is a calling card. This gets you gigs. Then you go out and you do your gigs, and that's where the magic happens, okay? So, everything that I shared with you is in a larger document that I am going to make available at the Women Canners Network Facebook page so that you can download it and just go, oh, that's interesting. And it will have links to those 3 crowdfunding platforms. I urge you to check out Women Canners Network, Song Leader Bootcamp Facebook page, Ruach Jewish Song Leaders Facebook page, because these are places where Jewish contemporary artists post updates about their own crowdfunding projects. Okay. So like Joe Buchanan has been raising money for an album. And you can go check it out.
Natalie Young.
I'm not sure.
For an album. I mean, everybody's raising money. That's, we do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And be aware of that too. I
But-
would say that a lot of people are doing this at the same time. And that, when Sababa raised the money for two of our three, the first one we just paid for ourselves. Luckily, we happen to have a producer with a phenomenal studio who's in our band, Scott Leader. But it's really, we were in on the ground floor of this. We were in even before you were, Beth. And so it really makes a difference that there are so many people that are raising money at the same time, just saying. So be aware of that and keep that enthusiasm up. One of the best things you said. Go ahead.
One more thing. Robbie, I'm going to use you as an example. Robbie and I are competitors. We're competitors for a very limited Jewish music market of people who are into this stuff. We are also colleagues and we are also friends. And so one of the ways that we can help our own efforts is to support each other's efforts by growing the awareness of the scene. Because I got to tell you, the contemporary Jewish music scene is about the size of this thumbnail right here. It's little bitty. Yeah. I got friends that I do coffee house open mics with, and they go, contemporary Jewish music. I thought that was a Christian thing. There's no clue. They don't know. They don't know we exist. So how do we help people know that we exist? We talk about each other's efforts. So like if Sababa writes a new song and when they're ready to just say, hey, it's on Spotify, I can put that on my Beth Hamon Music Facebook page and say, I just checked this out and it made my ears happy. And you might want to check it out too, because that is how we grow the scene. We grow awareness of the Jewish music scene by passing along links to other people's work as well as our own. Okay. And so here's another thing. I've got 2 minutes left. Okay. Woo. Along with that, most people do their crowdfunding campaigns during the academic year. I have paid attention to this. There is not as much crowdfunding during summer vacation months. Why? Because people are going away or they're at camp or they're doing stuff and they're not gathering together in one place on a regular communal basis the way we do during the academic year. And the synagogue year, as we know, is scheduled to overlap with the academic year. So I took a big risk. There weren't very many people raising money in June of last year when I started my crowdfunding campaign. So I didn't have as many other campaigns for my campaign to compete against. Now, I also didn't meet my goal because summer, but I made enough money to make an album, and according to my plan. So, yeah, it's competition. Let's be real about that. But we're also all colleagues and friends trying to help each other grow this scene, this genre, so people will know it exists, because there's a lot of good music being created out there. Okay.
And we're also collaborators. I think that's important to say too, is that when we get together, I mean, Beth and I have written a song together recently. When we get together and we're at conferences or, the WCN conference or any of the others, we work with each other to enhance the music that we bring to the table. And for me, it's more about collaboration. I'm very lucky because I do make a living doing this, but that's because I'm also a cantor and rabbi. But it really can make a difference in the way that you look at yourself as a musician and the way that you look at I think of us as collaborators more than competitors. But Beth, you're right about it being it's a limited pool of gigs, and believe it or not, even with the thumbnail, there's a whole lot of really great talent out there. And we're all looking for those festivals, and we're all looking for those Shabbaton, and we're all looking for those different opportunities to bring our music to the fray. So collaborate as much as possible. If you're not sure about a piece of music that you're presenting or that you're writing, and we have, by the way, an expert, or she's walking, but she's a phenomenal musician, singer, and composer beyond belief. She's in Israel, but I know her from Shashelet and other things, so she's on the call as well, even though she's on the move. It's really important to use each other as as a sounding board for, hey, I just wrote of the Hari Nenu. What do you think of it? And I went, I wrote one too. I'm going to send it to you. And so both of them, both Beth and I wrote within like a couple weeks of each other, brand new piece. And it's the same text. So, you know, how do we support each other in that? And that's it's incredible that we get together at these conferences and we get to play together and create even a different sound for what we're already doing. So I want to say it's competition, yes, but it's a lot of collaboration. Look at the country music, the CMAs. They all play together. They all do stuff together. It's really inspiring to see that. And, you know, I want us to be the Jewish CMA. What can I say? I'm not a big country music fan, but I like their attitude. So
you're a mandolin player and you're not a big country music fan. Huh. Okay.
You know.
Right. That's something for you and your therapist. Okay. Are there any questions or comments from anyone here?
We have time for questions.
Including the person who's walking?
Yeah. Now she stopped moving, but so happy to see you. I can't even begin. I'm going to unmute you if you want to say something to people. Go ahead. Talk away.
Well, I'm just so thrilled, and I was just in this depressed mood, and I said, oh my God, Beth is on. And I just feel so blessed to be connected. And thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's great hearing all your wonderful ideas. Thank you.
It's wonderful to see you, Orit, and hopefully you can get out to a WCN conference soon because you have so much to contribute. And I just want to share you with everyone. I know you.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
Different perspective, Israeli music, very different perspective. So anyway,
I've never gotten to meet Orit in person. I got to meet her music in person in 2013 at Shalshelet. And I think I got to play one of your pieces with a group of people, and I just went, wow.
Yeah.
So I think this is the first time. I think this is the first time you and I are communicating in real time. So thank you so much for being here.
I love your music too, Beth. I love it, and I love your voice. It's amazing. I love your voice.
Wow, thank you.
Great. I think
a trip to Israel is on my someday list. So if I can make that happen, I'll look you up.
She's a fabulous host.
Sure, please do.
She's a fabulous host. We had lots of
okay.
So.
Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap this up?
I do. Hi, Beth. How are you?
Good.
So my situation's different. I don't do house concerts. I don't play an instrument. My idea for doing this would simply be because we have wanted to have a CD for our congregation so that when new members come, you know, this is something we can give to them so they can learn all our songs and stuff. Do you think this would work for that as well?
I think it could work. I think you should talk to Ilana Axel in Chicago.
I know, in Hoffman Estates, yeah.
Because he used to be the music director at a Reconstructionist shul that created a CD of music their shul did.
Okay.
And I am pretty sure that they did some kind of communal funding, though I'm not sure exactly how. I think it can work, but if you're creating a music CD for use within your community, you will have to ask a lot more from the members of your community to support it.
Right.
It may also involve questions of licensing because unless it's all original, if you're doing other stuff, that adds a layer of cost and complexity to the picture, which you're going to want to research thoroughly. I think it could work. I think you might have to keep your production values on the simpler side to make it more doable.
Okay.
And for that, I would talk to a recording engineer. I would talk to a producer. I would, if you want to email with me afterwards, because you've heard this. It's pretty simple recording values here. It was just me and me. So we can talk about that afterwards, but I think that's something you're definitely going to want to research and ask for help from your community. Your community, by the way, adores you. I know this because I saw it in real time.
Yep.
So ask for input from your community.
Okay. And also, I just want
to make them stakeholders before you start asking for money.
I will, for sure. Yeah.
Great. And Scott Leader has done dozens of these. He's brought in to do these for congregations all over the world. He has produced CDs, and he can give you all of the legalities as well as he's just a really good person to talk to in general about production. And so a great resource. Alana as well, but Scott has the professional knowledge after doing dozens of these. So.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, he's a really nice fella.
I know.
Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Anybody else? Gail, do you have anything? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, I have an electronic copy. I'm going to put this on the Facebook WCN page.
Perfect.
And I'm going to email a copy of it to Robbie, because if there's a way to put it on the WCN members website, it might be of use to somebody there as well.
Email
Yes?
it to Francine Davis Jacobs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
The person who is in charge
So
of
if there are no more questions, I want to say some thank yous to all of you who came to partake and be in this and be stakeholders in the Nosh and Knowledge program. So thank you for that. Thank you to Robbie for knowing all things computerese so that I did not have to run this myself and blow up the internet. Because, hey, when I got my first computer in 1996, my first question was, and I kid you not, which button blows up Cleveland? It became the family joke. Right. So I want to say thank you to all of you. And if you, let's see, my website is on this form, and you can go to my website and find the contact form, which will go straight to my email if other questions occur to you later on. And just use your resources. Utilize, know your resources. Make a list. I have a book that just has lists of resources for different things in it. And I carry that book. It's a little book. I carry it with me in my messenger bag everywhere because I might find another resource and want to write it down. Know your resources, because that's going to be your bag of gold when you undertake this process. And I hope you will all feel encouraged to undertake this creative process and get your stuff out into the world, because we're artists and what we make matters in the world. So let's do it. Okay.
Agreed.
I love you all, and I love WCN, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Beth. That was great presentation.